I'm Artistic Director at the Arkansas Symphony Orchestra, and we're here for another episode of Drew and Friends, where ASO Concertmaster Drew Irvin puts together a monthly class of some of the students in our youth ensembles program, as well as the Sturgis Music Academy, instructors from the Arkansas Symphony itself, and we show to the public just a little bit of the inside of how our education programs work in a masterclass setting. So glad you've joined us. You've got a number of musical treats ahead for you. I hope you enjoy this evening's musical and educational session. And here's Drew Irvin.
Thanks so much, Geoff, and I am so happy to be here tonight. We have an amazing range of ages and instruments for tonight's class. It's really great. 2 cellos, 1 violin, 1 harp, and 1 trumpet. Yay, brass. And I'm really excited to get in there. I wanted to take a second and introduce the faculty members first, and then the students will introduce themselves as we cycle through them. Of course, you've already met Geoff Robson. He's been here before, but he is both a violinist and pedagogue extraordinaire, and also really a very motivational and musical and engaging conductor, which we're very excited to get to work with him next week. Yay, we have a live concert. And I'm also happy to welcome back our principal harpist, Alisa Coffey, with her second student. And we are very excited to get to hear yet another harp student. And then we have my dear friend, Sandy McDonald. Not only have we we were stand partners together for some 16 years in the Arkansas Symphony as she was assistant concertmaster, and she is still in the symphony and she's retired from that position, but she is also has decades of teaching experience in Adventures in the Arts at Pulaski Heights Methodist and all over Central Arkansas. So we're really happy to have her here. And then Mike Underwood is our principal trombonist, and we are glad he's here because we need the brass perspective, but also because he is just such a fun guy to hang around with and talk with. You get him in a conversation and it's going to be a lot of fun about anything, something amazing. And then we have a special guest coming all the way from the good city of Detroit, Jeremy Crosmer, cellist in the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, who actually cut his teeth by winning a contract with the Arkansas Symphony at the tender age of 15 before he grew up and moved on to bigger and better things. We are very grateful that this amazing musician and teacher and composer and all kinds of cellist is here. So welcome to everybody. And without any further ado, I just want to jump right into our first student. Pranjal, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Pranjal Arekar. I'm 9 years old and my teacher is Miss Joanna. And I'm gonna be playing chorus from Judas Maccabeus.
That was great, Pranjal. It's nice to meet you and nice to hear you play.
Thank you.
I thought that it was a great performance. I loved your intonation and your rhythm is really great. So I just wanted to give you one suggestion. When you are playing and you have some shorter notes, like this measure, if you can think of it like you are maybe on a boat and you're skimming across the water, so that the boat doesn't stop when you play the notes, but you just keep going across the water. I'm going to tilt my camera so you can see my bow a little bit. So this measure. You see that my bow is moving all the time rather than stopping. Can you try that measure? Yeah, that was great. And I think there's one or two other measures like that. So can you try measure 13? Great. And then how about measure 21? Yeah, that's so much better. So when you play that way, that makes the line really smooth. And if you imagine, you know, this is called a chorus. If you imagine someone singing it, then just think about the way they sing it and how maybe their voices wouldn't stop. They would just sing this really long line. That was beautiful. Did anyone else have comments?
Hi, Pranjal. I'm Drew. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed everything you did, and I would encourage you to look even more closely at the dynamics and see if we can exaggerate them. Now, I know most of us, as we move online with working on broadcasting things online, not all of us have everything set up so that we have super hi-fi sound, but I think we could probably play, maybe example would be measure 5 with even a more exaggerated crescendo into measure 6, then exaggerate the decrescendo. Do you want to try that and show me how much crescendo and decrescendo you can do? That was good. Try that again. Now that you know it, try and see if we can get it smooth as well as keep the crescendo. Isn't that hard? That's a lot of stuff to do, but I really want you to keep working on that. It's not just the crescendo, but you also have the string crossing and the change in the fingers. It's a lot to think of. But I would encourage you to explore more um, on how we make things softer and louder. Before I move on, can you tell me what is it that makes our dynamics happen on the cello or the violin or the viola or bass?
When you move farther away from the frog and you're a little bit away from the frog and you're a little bit lighter on the bow.
So it's about the bow, right? So you're talking about maybe weight in the bow. That's one great way. Has anybody started to talk to you about contact point? Have you heard that word yet?
A little, yes.
Okay. Contact point refers to how close to the bridge you are, how far away from the bridge you are. So that's a very long story, but I know Miss Jo is going to be working on those things with you. So be open to those when they happen. We can't unpack that today. But someone else have some comments? Thank you, Pranjal.
I think what you just said, Pranjal, is really important about how the bow is naturally lighter when you get further away from the frog. And if you want to really connect your notes, you need to compensate for that, meaning you need to make up for that. And so you can add, when you change bow going at the tip of the bow, a little bit more weight in order to keep that big sound. And I loved what you adjusted so nicely and so quickly to Jeremy's suggestion too, because what we really want to hear on those two up bows is two notes that are the same length. And I think that what the way Jeremy described it really had you capture that. So brava, very nice.
Thank you.
Unless anyone has anything else, burning desire, we can move on now. Thank you very much, Pranjal. And we're going to head on who I said was next.
You said I was next.
All right, let's hear for Mr. Go for it, Will. Introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Will Parrack. I'm 17 years old. I go to Conway High School, and I study under Ross Alhorn, who is second trumpet in the Arkansas Symphony Orchestra, as well as the professor of trumpet at University of Central Arkansas. And tonight I'm going to be playing Charlier 2.
Bravo. Bravo, Will. Really nice job.
Thank you.
You have a really pretty trumpet sound, which is really kind of a testament to you and to Dr. Alhorn. He's doing a great job with you. So bravo.
Thank you.
I wanted to just give you maybe a couple of things to think about. I apologize. I do not know this. I haven't really played this piece much. So I know the piece kind of, but I don't know it that well. So I think what I'm going to do is I was looking at the score, and there are a couple of things that you were doing that I feel like if you give some length to the ends of phrases, I think that's going to really help you a lot. So for instance, let's see, about 6 lines from the bottom, 7 lines from the bottom, you have a lot of these moments where you have ba dee dum dee da dee dum, like that kind of lick right there. And if you can always have, you have a really nice singing sound, and then and just those little moments, I feel like you go back to playing like a trumpet player, you know. And you want to always be thinking about how to play as if you're singing the line at all times, So why don't you just play that part? Let me find the exact measure, and then I'll go. Starting maybe, how about let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines from the bottom. Why don't you start on that low B flat, and when you get to the end of each of those phrases, just make the last note of that really long and beautiful. D, so that low A flat, the low D, or sorry, the low E flat, and the low and the A flat as well.
Okay.
And so on and so forth. Why don't you give that a try? Yeah, keep going, keep going.
Okay.
Yes. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing is, when we play a brass instrument and we see stuff like that, the tendency is to cut those notes off short and to just kind of not lose our musical sense in that way, just for a moment. And so you want to be really mindful of that. The other thing that you want to think about is in lines like that, it's easy. I felt like you were playing with good breaths, but then when you had rests, every time you had a rest, you were breathing. And I don't think it's necessary for you to breathe. And I think that will help you to kind of give it a more of an arcing of phrase. If you don't breathe on all of those, like maybe choose where you would breathe, and then kind of gloss over that rest, so that the rest is not so prominent. Like it's not so literal, right? Sometimes a rest is a rest, and sometimes a rest is just kind of a moment, right? Let me get back to the music. Let me see that real quick. So if I were to play that be a dee da dee dum, be a dee dum, dee da dee da dee da dee da dee dum, maybe breathe after that low A flat there.
Gotcha.
You see, so that
Yes.
yes, it almost sounds like you're like ignoring the rest, but you really aren't, because there's like this, right? It's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see what I mean? Try that. Do
Yes.
that whole thing from the low B flat, the 16th note. So you do the whole thing. So
Okay. See the 16th notes and the second measure of the line 7 from the bottom.
yes. And so what you're going to do is you're going to breathe after the low A flat, and then not breathe until you get to the next low A flat.
Gotcha.
Okay, try that. See if you can make that work. Will, the problem though is once you took the breath out, or once you took the breaths out, you still were making that the last eighth note too short. It needs to be longer. So let me see. This is going to be sight reading, so hopefully I can do this here. And with my glasses, let's see here. Oh boy. Where am I? Yeah, nice key too. Right, like that. You see how long that is?
Yes.
And pardon my sight reading there, but play that now. Just do the whole thing. And then big breath right there. So that's the end of that phrase, and then you start the next phrase like that. Yeah, good, good. Yeah. So two things. The breath. Make sure that the when you breathe, that you always are breathing within the phrase, and don't let the rest determine every single breath, because that's part of a longer phrase. And then also the end of the phrase should be always long, and be thinking about how you would sing that. And I think that will help you in your quest. So
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'd like to jump in for a second. Hi, Will, it's Jeremy. I also grew up in Conway, so it's nice to meet you and see someone from my hometown. I thought it was really great. I loved your sense of rubato and your timing. My comment is about the pulse. I feel like it would be nice if we could feel which beat you're on at all times. So feeling where the downbeats are, feeling where the second and third beats are, especially when you have a tie. So if you look at the Meno Mosso about 5 lines in, that high note, feeling the third beat. Every time you have a tied note, feeling that third beat. You can think of it kind of like Disney sing-along. So you know how in the Disney sing-along, you have the Mickey Mouse that's kind of jumping along, following those words. If you have that going on in your head at all times, I know that first of all, it might make you feel a little bit crazy. But the good thing is, if you do that, you can project that beat to everyone else who's listening. I actually have a specific person that sits on my shoulder, a former conductor of the Arkansas Symphony, who sits on my shoulder, this sort of good angel who's always just has this very precise beat, so I know where I am at all times. Again, I loved the sense of rubato. I just felt like sometimes you're losing the pulse a little bit. So if you can feel that. Another thing, you could feel a piano part or something in the background going like this. Right, so just hearing something that shows you where the 1, 2, 3, or picture Geoff conducting, and that might help you. But great job.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Oh.
I had a quick little question. I think where you were working with Mike Underwood on before the low A octaves, there's kind of an arpeggio in the part, and you seem to be hanging on to the low note of those runs, where I think probably they should go up to the top, so less time on the bottom and more time at the arrival. I don't know if you've discussed that with your teacher, but it might be something to think about.
The before the line above, the octave leaps, where I have like the chord progressions and then the modulations.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
Basically, when there's just running 16ths kind of in an arpeggio form.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Alisa, and thank you so much, Will. That was very musical. I very much enjoyed it. And if no
Thank
one
you.
has any burning desires, we're going to move on now to Kalinda. Would you like to introduce yourself, Kalinda, please?
My name is Kalinda Loomis. I'm 14 years old. I attend Mills University Studies High. I study under Geoff Robson, and tonight I'm going to be playing Concerto in A minor, number 6, first movement by Vivaldi.
I really, really enjoyed that. That was really, really good. Your vibrato was very, very nice. And I really like your bow arm too. It's just, it works really, really well. Now, if you're thinking about phrasing and well, okay, first of all, your eighth notes are in this kind of a piece. A lot of them they're on the short side, but some of the times you just play long ones out of the blue when they should match what came before them. See, I'm thinking, let's see. Can you play like the end of start at the beginning once, okay? I want to show you what I mean. You're like right there at the end of the da 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 da. All of a sudden they were long, and they should match. I feel like they should match what the ones that you did before that. Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. Okay, and you know, what period of music is Vivaldi from?
I'm not sure.
Well, he's from the Baroque period, and in the Baroque period, if you have a shift, you're not gonna make sound in between the notes. You don't want to hear the shifting sound. So, like when you get to the bottom of the page, you know, with the big shift up to the D, really try to make it. Just make your bow slightly stop so that your hand gets up there, and you know you have to hide that shift. Can you try that? Can you go dun 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 dun, that thing up there?
Ooh.
That's it. That's it.
Ooh, we'll try it again.
You're getting it. Try it once more.
Okay.
See, it's just enough of a break so that you don't hear that sound, and that happened in a couple of other places. But Vivaldi is not a composer that you want to hear the shifts. Okay, you want them to be clean. So keep that in mind. I like the way, like when you have a lot of the same note, like at the beginning or when it comes back later, that you kind of crescendo so that it's not just more of the same thing. That sounds good the way you're doing that. Let's see. Are you aware you're playing a wrong note somewhere? Let's see here.
42.
Was it 42? I didn't catch the measure. Okay, try that measure. Yes, that was it. That was it.
Oh, I see what I did.
See what it is? Okay. All right, just be careful. Maybe mark that so that you don't get in the habit of that. Let me see here. Oh, you know, back on the first page, when you have those bum bum da da dun dun da 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 dun dun da 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 dun. You want to, the ones with the dashes, the notes with the dashes on them, you want to make sure that you're leaning on those. Okay, like measure 15. Could you start there? That's it. Yeah. That's it. So you see what I mean about you lean on the ones, and the same thing in the phrase that comes after that. It's the same thing right there. Yeah. And of course you have to just practice that third page like mad. I know when I'm doing group classes, if we're playing that piece, that's where everybody starts to crash and burn right there on the third page. So that needs a lot of just, have you tried playing that in different rhythms and things like that? Yeah, that always works really well. So you just have to just know that like the back of your hand.
Okay.
You're really doing a lot of really good work. I can tell you have a great teacher.
I want to second that. Kalinda, there's so many good things in what you're doing. And exactly what Sandy said, your vibrato sounds great. But because your vibrato sounds great, if you neglect a finger that would need some vibrato, it kind of sticks out. And Kalinda, can you tell me what finger of all the fingers is the hardest one to vibrate?
The fourth finger.
Exactly. So you got to measure 6, and you done beautiful vibrato and measure 4 and measure 5, and you got to 6 in the second half of 6, and you're like, oh no, and it wasn't shiny and awesome. And then one line later on those beautiful fourth finger B flats, you vibrated beautiful. It was easy, and like, she's got a great fourth finger. You have to use it all the time. Okay? And one last thing in measure 9. Da 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 dum dum so. You have to keep you have to do the what I call the second violin part in your head. Da 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 bum do 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 do, and you have to keep that underlying pulse, just like Jeremy was talking about. You know, you have to have the under voices, otherwise it feels like, oh, I don't know how long that long note's supposed to last. And that gives a little more structure, backbone to measure 9. But oh, Kalinda, I'm really pleased and impressed. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just wanted to give you a little bit of friendly advice from a lower strings player. First of all, I really liked your performance, and I can see a lot of your teacher in your playing, especially with the vibrato. For cellists, we use gravity to our advantage. So this is going to get a little bit scientific, but when you play at the frog, you can get a lot more of your arm weight into the instrument and get a lot more power. If you play at the tip, then you have to turn your elbow and your arm on press really hard to get any sound out of your instrument. So when you start the piece, rather than starting about halfway out, I would start as close to the frog as you can get to give you that ability to get enough power. So those first 5 notes that you play that should have a little bit of a crescendo, dum bum. So just go ahead and look at my bow. I would start here, dum bum 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 bum, so that you can spend, right? So the more you can keep coming back to the frog, the more you're going to be able to increase your dynamic range and have louder louds, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Great job.
I had a comment as well. So Kalinda, very nice performance. I am not a string player at all. I have never played a string instrument. In fact, the only time I have, I think I broke a string. So I'm not going to talk about any of the technique about how to play the instrument. But I wanted to ask, how long have you been working on this solo?
I'd say 2 months or so, maybe a little longer.
Okay, so quite enough time for certain, right? This isn't your first rodeo around you're not just working on this from the beginning. So what I like to tell my students or ask my students is, what do you hear? What picture do you see when you are playing this? Have you thought about that?
Not really.
See, I think that music making is selling a character, and the character can be just about anything, and that's the beauty of music. You know, you could have a character that is human, or you could just create a scene or a color or something. I think actually with this piece, I think it's more of a human character, right? It's probably like that, right? And so what you want to be thinking about is, how can you make more of a character, so that it's your piece, not just a piece, but it's your piece. So if, like, for instance, if I were playing this, which, you know, I don't guess I could play this, but I'm not like just bum 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 ba-ya-da-dum ba-da-dum ba-da-dum, like that, right? And so it has a character almost like it's kind of swashbuckling, right? Sort of like you know, like soldiers going off to war, or just something, you know. Be thinking of characters and how you see the music, not just the music on the page, and that will bring it more to life and give it life, and then in turn it'll be more enjoyable for you and the audience. So you're welcome.
Awesome. Well, I think we need to move on to Anna. Thank you so much, Kalinda, for playing some beautiful melody for us.
Thank you.
When you're ready, Anna, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Anna Lien. I go to school. I play under Miss Lee Coffee, and today I'm going to be playing Exam 4, Sons in the Walk by Marcel Trenier, and it's translated as By the Brook in the Woods.
Anna, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're having sound issues. We're going to see if we can check our sound and get our sound reset on you. I'm so sorry. You were working so hard. Did you set your sound off, turn off original sound, or on? Have you done any of the sound settings? Are you on a computer or an iPad?
I'm on a computer.
Okay.
It
Down
doesn't
by
sound like your mic is on. We worked on this week. Can you make sure that the Samson mic is selected?
Okay.
I think maybe for your output, double check that.
Okay. Okay. I will start over.
It doesn't sound any different, hun.
It doesn't? Yeah, on you.
Do you see the original sound setting on Zoom?
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry about that.
Yay! Okay, now we can hear your work.
Okay.
Thank you so
I will
much
start
for
over.
fixing that, Anna. And I will claim responsibility. We should have checked that before we started the show. But one of the joys of teaching online on Zoom. Thank you again for your patience.
Thank you very much.
And I am so glad we fixed the sound on that. That was beautiful. I just wanted to say that before I let your teacher work with you.
Me too. Thanks for calling that, Drew. Great job. I love the different colors that you're getting now. We've talked a lot about this, about setting apart the melody from a lot of the high delicate stuff, and it's working really well. So great job. I would just like to hear that spot that we talked about just at the ending on the last page, the molto retenuto. So we come out of all of those 16ths and then we go into eighth notes, and those eighth notes are slowing down all the way to the fermata. Can you try that one more time? Maybe from the top of page 8, just that descent.
Okay.
And slow down the eighth notes, and then the eighth notes can progressively slow down and then hold the fermata, and then we'll go on. Yeah, beautiful. That's great. And then here, make sure you take a quarter rest before you start back in. After the mezzo forte accented chord. So chord, digga, 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 da, 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 da. Okay.
Okay.
So just make sure that that's long enough. That's great. I have a few other notes that we'll cover in your lesson. I'd love if there's other feedback for you to get some from other musicians.
Beautiful playing, Anna. It's really I agree that you're really getting a nice sense of the colors now of the instrument. It's just very musical playing. I so the first thing I'm going to say really is kind of a bit dry, but it is something that I was thinking during the performance. Back at the beginning when you first come in with the melody, there's I think you're achieving a wonderful balance between the melody and the arpeggiated accompaniment, but there's a certain kind of inconsistency about the length of that tenuto 16th note at the end of each measure that it makes it sound a little bit unintentional almost, and it's not quite as musical as I think it could be. So, boom, boom, boom. I think it can have a little bit of stress. I'm not saying don't play with rubato and don't play with feeling, but it should be an intentional decided thing where there's a bit of a consistency, because it ranges from feeling like an eighth note to feeling like a triplet to feeling like a 16th note. And I sort of just on my first hearing of this piece, I like the I liked the ones I tended to like the ones that were actually a little bit quicker on the 16th note, even if you lean into it a bit. So that was one thought I had. If I were to ask you to another section again, it would actually be right at the climax, which let's see, it would be page 5. Um, and these arpeggios, as they're cascading up, I know you're trying to bring out the accented notes, but make sure we don't lose the top notes of the arpeggio. And then the final, when it goes into the gliss, really go all the way to that low fortissimo note. There was a bit of a break that I think could be. So I wonder if just for pacing, you might play this page for us again.
Okay. You're muted.
Really, really nice on especially the way up. Those arpeggios really popped in great clarity. I think that maybe the glissando could be more like a little bit more acceleration to it so that it speeds up and gets louder, and then really place that, that low G flat F sharp. And so we heard it. I think that probably isn't coming through all that great because we are over the computer, but I liked that pacing a lot better that time. So thank you.
Thank you.
My main comment is a further compliment. After I so rudely interrupted in the midst of what would have been an amazing performance if we had heard it, you managed to get right back on the horse and play beautifully an entire way through. So fantastic focus on your part. Good job, Anna.
Thank you.
And I think now we kind of need to move on, and it's time for a little bit of Bach from Micheal. Thanks again, Anna. That was beautiful. And now, I'm very excited to hear Micheal play some Bach. Take it away when you're ready, son.
Hi, my name is Micheal. I'm 17. I go to Little Rock Central High School. I study with David Gerstein, and I'll be playing the prelude to Bach's Second Suite in D minor.
Bravo, Michael. It's so nice to hear you play.
Thank you.
You have so much expression with every single note that you play, and I think that's a real accomplishment for you. So what the things that I'm going to tell you are to take that one step further to the next level. But it's a really good performance, so you should feel solid about it. And as time went on, you were doing more and more to be expressive, and I really liked that. So a couple of things. Let's talk a little bit more about playing close to the frog. For you, for some of your high points, you were close to the frog, but there were other moments where I felt like you could come back to the frog that you made it about halfway there and then didn't quite get back. So for cellists, this is really nice. When you come back to the frog, you can actually close this armpit and really relax your arm into the string. So go ahead and put your bow on the D string right by the frog. Yeah, and then you can release your bow grip so you don't have to hold on very tightly. Sorry, I need to adjust my screen a little bit. You can actually let go with most of your fingers and still have the bow on the string pretty solidly, right? So anytime you come back to the frog, that's a chance for you to relax your fingers and adjust your grip if necessary. I noticed that sometimes you get to this grip that's kind of locked in place with the pinky pointing out. When that happens, find a place where you can come back to the frog and just let go and reinitialize your bow grip. Now, when you do that, you want to close your armpit. So that gives you a chance to really release the weight into the string. Does all of that make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay, so the reason I'm telling you these things is because that's going to increase your range and allow you to be even more expressive. The other thing that I wanted to ask you to do when you're being expressive is to think not just about every individual note, but about these longer phrases. Now, some of the crescendos that you did, they were really nice. They had a really nice trajectory to them, but I'm actually talking about places where it's not so obvious. Okay, so there are places where the notes ramble a little bit. And if you feel like they're rambling, maybe you can push through them a little bit more and make them less important. You know, sometimes less is more. So if you kind of rush through a passage that doesn't mean as much and you get to that next downbeat, that it has that much more power. Okay. An example of this is right at the beginning. So I don't think you should start the beginning quite so slow, because there's actually a big arc to those first four measures, right? And then, so you hear how there's those four statements. Everything else in between that, it's more like filigree or ornamentation. So can you try the first four measures?
Sure.
Sorry, four measures.
Oh, four.
He is
Is he
frozen
just-
in time.
Yeah.
Oh, here he's back.
There he's back. Woo!
Try it one more time. Yeah, that was great. And I liked that you came back to the frog on that high E. Again, you're putting so much importance on all of these notes, but I think actually you can push through a little bit. So in the second bar on the C sharp, that one actually goes up to the B flat. So I wouldn't put a big emphasis on that downbeat. I would actually lead through. So let me just play it for you once. Right? And you can really lead everything into that surprise B flat in the fifth bar. So just looking at the first bar going into the second bar, you see you've got this roller coaster dipping down to the C sharp and then going back up. So that's kind of the trajectory that the timing needs to take, where you speed up, speed up, speed up, and then you lift off into the air and then relax.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. I could give you so many more comments, but I want to see if anybody else wants to jump in.
I just want to keep talking about the first 4 bars. No.
I can tell you my teacher, Dr. Feldman, spent so much time talking to me about those 4 bars.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's one way you can kind of incorporate some of the thoughts I think that Jeremy was sharing is really picking some notes that are important sort of structural elements. Like what really stands out to me in the first 4 bars is beat 2 of each measure, right? So really the progression. So first of all, the first note is not that important. I know it is the first note, but yum bum bo, you go to the A, and then you go to the B flat, and then you go to the E, and then the important D is the one in the 4th bar. You know, and so you can kind of think of all these phrases like that, but I won't muddy the waters further. But really nice, good progress, and I agree with the attempts to you know, the expression throughout the movement is great.
I'm going to put on my theory cap for just 1 second here and kind of piggyback on what Jeremy and Geoff have been saying about the opening 4 bars. And there's actually what's happening in the first 4 bars is basically a prolongation of one note, which is A. And so if you go to that A, and then that B flat is kind of the note that's kind of that ebb against the flow of the A, then you kind of think of it as that B flat then returns to A. So dee da dee da 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 dee da 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 dee da dee da 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 dee da dee dum, right? So there's an art to that, and you keep thinking of the line, and that's what excuse me, that's kind of the hallmark of Bach anyway. But beautiful playing, Michael. You really have a great flair for the instrument, and it was enjoyable to hear you play.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are a little over tonight, and does anyone have a burning desire? Any of the other teachers? One more last thing. I wanted to say to all of these young artists, it's an absolute pleasure to get to hear some music happening from so many different levels and so many instruments. I also want to say personally just to Michael how amazing this is for me, because I don't know, 5-6 years ago he was in little prelude orchestra that I conduct, and I'm in the back watching this kid. I'm like, he's paying attention. He's got some stuff. I can't wait to see what happens. And lo and behold, he makes music like this. And this is the kind of stuff that we musicians live for, getting to see a young artist be born like this. So Micheal, thank you so much for making music for us like that. Again, thank you to the students, Micheal and Will and Pranjal and Anna and Kalinda. You guys all played beautifully. Thank you also to my peers. I am so grateful to have people like Mike Underwood and Alisa and Sandy and Geoff. And we are so grateful to have a guest as wonderful as Jeremy. Also, thank you for the support that we get from our tech people. Thank you again, Brandon Doris, for helping us tonight. And the final thing I want to say outside of thank you to everybody is, students, you need to go practice, but practice with a purpose. And I think that's all for tonight. Have a great one, ladies and gentlemen. See you next time.